Hello, everybody. This is Guidebook Awakening. Before I escort my mother to and from her service thing, um, I want to make a video about this because it's a guidebook on how to provide support as a man for women's health. I believe that as gynercists, we have a lot to overcome as far as not only our imaging issues, but I think we can definitely come together and be a more pro women health advocate, and we can also be more pro women in general. I think we can innovate in these areas. We can provide some cool imagination for it. Now, one thing that I have noticed is because I follow feminists and radical feminists and other pro women groups when I can on X, is that men don't know about women's health issues. They don't even know women's anatomy. So there is very little, if any, education that they are getting on the subject. Now, some of this is obviously going to be selective, like some of the men are just opting out of learning about anything whatsoever, and that creates a problem. And that problem will ultimately lead to the death or misery of women and girls. And that's why I feel like at this point, maybe it would be better to stop assuming that the men are somehow magically all going to educate themselves and just provide and just create our own little guidebook, like a little, maybe however long it needs to be, hand it to young men or men who have wives or whatever, or have girlfriends, and then just talk about it. Just kind of go up to them and say, look, and here's my suggestion, not saying you have to do it this way, but I think that because I believe everyone thinks they're the hero of their own story, I think you can pitch it to them as if you can be the superhero. You have the power to make a difference for the women in your life. I think if you frame it like that, it'll be something that they'd be willing to pick up and look around. Shaming obviously doesn't work because a lot of these people don't feel any shame. And I think part of that is also because of the system. So part of why I brought this up had to do with the next administration's plans for the Department of Education. They're going to send it back to the states. So whatever little education that men and boys have been getting on the health of women and girls, they'll get even less of that now. So the question is, do we just, wring our hands in defeat? Do we get upset or angry? Or do we find some other way to get around the problem? And I think it's time for I think it's time for pro-women groups and others to come up with more direct, creative solutions to these issues. If the country is going to change, then we need to ride the wave of change in whatever way we can for the positive. Instead of getting upset that, all these things are happening. I mean, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset, but having some kind of action plan, having some kind of way to go forward to help these individuals, to me, that counts. So the Department of Education, if you've ever paid attention to the way in which the system is designed, there's two problems. First problem is that boys can opt out of studying specifically about women's health. I want everybody to think about any K through 12 classes that specifically focused on women's health and the ways in which men and boys can be supportive towards women's health and towards girls' health. I will wait for this one. Have you had a moment to think about it? There are interconnected subjects in the academic world. For instance, physics is connected with chemistry, and chemistry is connected with physics, and mathematics is connected with chemistry and physics, because without mathematics, you would not have a language with which to help describe and explain the things that are in chemistry and physics. You have to use these languages because they are all part of each other. There's an interconnectedness for it all. So, for example, you can have women's health being connected to a health class, but what class is specifically about how men can be supportive regarding, again, very specifically women's health? What class is talking about all the health issues that they're facing during pregnancy? What health issues are unique to women, regardless of whether or not they are pregnant? What are the specific needs that women have? Like, for example, nutritional needs, dietary needs, all that stuff. And and also how to when it comes to financial support, like how to save for women and girls. In other words, do women or girls, do they need money for something? Do they need the men to save up for something specific, something that they need, something that they can't go without? So it's kind of like having like that kind of guidebook. I think would just be like, here you go. This is specifically what this is about. Please read it. And because the academic world is not, some people would say it is. No, I disagree. I don't think the academic world is gynocentric at all. Actually, I think it's what's called system centric. I know that might surprise people because I used the word androcentric before, but system centric is, to me, it's where you develop. All of these classes are about keeping the system going, maintaining everything as best as possible. So mathematics, pretty much in any career, without mathematics, without having a rudimentary understanding of the field of mathematics, you can't count change. You can't work in the field of economics, so forget trying to be a business person. You can't build housing without mathematics. There's almost nothing in this world you can do without that language. Likewise, when you think about all the other fields that we have, like if you want to build planes, or you want to build better equipment, or you want to, make certain kinds of foods, everything requires these different subjects, right? But because these subjects are so in depth, and because they take so much time to study, and the average person is not a genius, that means that the average individual has two choices when it comes to these subjects. They can either spend the vast majority of their time studying them, or they can try to balance their life between their study time and their play time. But where specifically is there being time made to talk about what women go through, what could improve their particular disposition? Where is it? I don't see it. Even when you go to places like college, or you enter these programs, is nursing specifically about women? No. So how do we get them the help that they need? We can't, the academic environment, I think, before people, I don't like the current administration, but before we lay blame for somebody making it worse, I think we have to acknowledge that it was pretty bad to begin with when it came to its treatment of women and girls, and also what they kept the focus on. Because if you're keeping people focused on all these other subjects, well, where are you supposed to make time for the other stuff? And if people can't make time for it, if they're too busy, they've got work, there's other things going on, or they can blow it off. If you give somebody the ability to blow it off, they're going to blow it off. If you stack work on top of work for an individual where they don't have any time to indulge their curiosity, to do anything, chances are that they won't. And so how do we solve that problem? Especially since our people, and people who think like this, are probably not going to be in control of the government for the next 25 to 30 years. So I think that it's a case of, I think we need to go directly to these people. I think we need to find a way to message it, to talk about these things in a way that is positive, that provides a level of comfort and support that they're not getting in other worlds. I think that people have a tendency to forget that even though the academic world has brought great opportunities for all of us, it's also not done anywhere near enough. There's much, much more that it could do, and it could be a far greater positive force for change. But I think that this is where we can pick up the slack. This is where the Gynarchy community can sort of cultivate a new identity for itself as a pro-women group, as people who are educators who are going out and trying to save people's lives and do something. We can do that. We have the power to do that. And I think in the coming years, it'll be more imperative than ever to actually try to encourage that transition within our own community. And also, hopefully, to get other pro-women groups on board to say, look, I think we just need to have a candid, honest conversation. These men are not going to educate themselves about women's health and well-being, either because of the way the system is designed to push the subjects that it pushes, to take up the time that it takes, or they're just not interested. They just don't give a shit. And it makes it even worse when you know that a lot of these individuals want to have authority over women and girls. So I think it falls upon us to accept that perhaps and most likely they won't educate themselves. So, do we just rest on our laurels and let this go on? Or do we try to make a difference? Do we try to actually go up to these people and say, look, this isn't very long, but it's a way you can be of great help. You can learn about the thing. And you know what the important thing is? If the guy in particular, if he doesn't want it, that's still data. That's still a way of saying, hey, he won't do it. But what if some other guy who was previously disinterested or was bogged down by work, what if we found a way to give that information? What if he read it? And what if that saved his wife's life? What if that helped the woman or the women in his life? I think that one of two things is true. I think that there are some people who are misguided, and I think there are people who are deliberately being neglectful. And I don't think everyone who is misguided is neglectful. I have hope that some human beings, especially some men, if they were just, if unfortunately it's a shitty thing, but if they were just approached and given the information like this, like about that big or whatever, could, 50, 100, whatever pages to say, please read this. This can make the difference. This could save your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. If you did something like that, I think that that would help. Because obviously they're not doing it themselves, and you can I'm tired of this, I don't know how to put it, this whole need to feel morally superior to other people. It doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't do anything for women and girls. So yeah, you can feel morally superior to somebody who won't educate themselves. You can try to sit on your high horse, but while you're doing that and while you're busy looking down at somebody for not educating themselves, what's happening to the women and the girls in our community? That's not going to get us anywhere. That's how I feel about it. What do you think? If there is already something like that, I can just distribute it to anyone I feel like. I mean, I can you'll have to ask a few questions like, what do you think about this or that, or do you have this? Do you have a wife? Do you have this? I mean, I think this could prove useful to you. It's something to know for the future. So there are things that I think we can do. That, in other words, we don't need orders from a department or from the government or anybody to be part of our community and to try to help the people in our community. At some point, we just have to say, okay, this is a lost cause. This isn't a lost cause, right? And I think we need, while the onus does need to be on men for not educating themselves, at some point we have to acknowledge, okay, well, they're not educating themselves. People are still suffering and dying. At this point, it's like, okay, if they're not doing it, and some of them would listen if it were a pamphlet or whatever it is, maybe we just need to take that step. Maybe we need to work with the people that we have instead of developing an attitude problem which doesn't do anything. It's not going to stop them. They're not going to magically become better human beings. Clearly. I mean, look at the things they're saying on social media, like your body, my choice. I mean, some of this fucked up stuff is just the beginning of what they'll do. And I think we need a positive counteracting force that works against that, but not in a violent way, in a peaceful way, that sort of restores responsibility, that restores accountability for men and for those who do want and do have the desire to be responsible, but to be responsible in a good way, not in a domineering fashion. We need less of that in the world, not more. So I think that's about it. I've pretty much covered the topic. What do you think? Do you think this is good? Do you think that this is bad? Please feel free to tell me, and as always, share the video with anybody that you can. I think that this is a step forward. I think that the challenges that are being presented by the upcoming administration, I think that will help to define our community or to crush it. And I think this is a defining moment, and I think we can either my brain is stalling. We can either rise to the occasion or we can fall to the wayside. It's really our choice. Well wishes, and I hope everyone has a great day. Please take care out there and be safe. Or as safe as you can be. Sad to say, yeah. Your body, my choice.